Hi there and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're gonna talk about Thanksgiving. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's November. We celebrate Thanksgiving in Canada. So why are you talking about it now? Well, if you live outside of Canada and the United States, you might be thinking, whoopee, someone else is finally doing a Thanksgiving video? It's a good thing too, because when we Americans head down to the grocery store, we don't want to run into any Canadians because they'll ruin our Thanksgiving, but this isn't just another goofy Thanksgiving video. It's actually a serious exploration of the facts and myths surrounding Thanksgiving. It is important that we understand where this holiday came from so that we can better appreciate its meaning and significance today. And even if you're not American, you still need to watch this video because chances are your country celebrates Thanksgiving too. Okay, let's do this. The traditional story. Okay. Here's what most Americans learn about Thanksgiving in school. In 1620, a group of European settlers known as the Pilgrims landed in New England aboard the Mayflower. The following year, they celebrated the harvest season with a 3-day feast and invited the local Native Americans. Everything was super awesome. Everyone got along great, and they all gave thanks together for the blessings of the past year. They did this every year. And in 1863, President Abraham Lincoln declared that the last Thursday in November would forever be known as a national day of Thanksgiving, and that's how we ended up with this awesome American tradition. Except that's not exactly what happened. Not even close. Let me tell you the real story. The historical facts. Okay, so the year is 1621. The location is present-day Massachusetts. And yeah, the Wampanoag people were pretty chummy with the Pilgrims at this point. You see, the Wampanoag had been living in this region for hundreds of years, but the colonial government wanted their land, so they took it. But no, in all seriousness, the Wampanoag had been living in this region for hundreds of years. And although they'd had some contact with the English colonists, they didn't become chummy until after a plague killed off a bunch of the colonists. In the fall of 1621, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony decided that he wanted to have a big feast with the Native Americans to show them that the colonists weren't all that bad. The Wampanoag agreed and sent over 90 people to participate. There were no speeches, only prayers, and they shared food and engaged in athletic competitions. But wait, hold on. If this wasn't the first Thanksgiving, then what was? Well, it depends on your definition of Thanksgiving if you mean a religious holiday dedicated to giving. Thanks, then it goes way back. The English celebrated Thanksgiving when King Henry VIII granted them permission to establish a new colony in North America. The Pilgrims also celebrated when they arrived in 1620. And each of these celebrations lasted for days with feasting, drinking, and prayer. In fact, the Pilgrims celebrated Thanksgiving 3 times during their first year in New England. Okay, so it wasn't the first Thanksgiving, which means the myth is busted right there. But what about the name? Did the Pilgrims actually call it Thanksgiving? Nope. They referred to it as a harvest feast or a harvest celebration. The official name didn't appear until much later. Common myths and misconceptions. So now that we know that it wasn't called Thanksgiving and it wasn't the first one, let's look at a third popular myth, the myth that everyone got along. Sorry, that didn't happen either. Sure, there was peace between the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims at the time, but that wouldn't last. Just 15 years later, the colonists had taken all of the Wampanoag land and killed or enslaved most of them. For this reason, many Native Americans consider Thanksgiving a day of mourning. In 1970, the Wampanoag leader Chief Justice Wamsutta James took this idea to the national stage by declaring the second T, Thursday in October, as a national day of mourning. This day is not meant to be one of sadness. but rather a reminder of the struggles faced by Indigenous people throughout history and an opportunity to educate others about their culture and heritage. How Thanksgiving became a national holiday. Okay. So now that we know that the traditional story isn't quite accurate, let's look at how Thanksgiving became a national holiday. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed the last Thursday in November as a national day of Thanksgiving. He chose this date to coincide with the harvest season and to give people something to be thankful for. During the Civil War, some historians argue that Lincoln was influenced by a writer named Sarah Josepha Hale, who spent years campaigning for a national holiday. She believed that Thanksgiving would bring the country together and help heal the wounds of the Civil War. How is Thanksgiving celebrated today? Well, Thanksgiving is a time for families to get together, eat lots of food, and watch football. It's also a time for people to reflect on the things they're grateful for. For many, it is a time to think about the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag and to remember the important role that both groups played in the founding of the United States. But let's be honest, for many Americans, Thanksgiving is mostly about food, family, and football. It's a time to indulge in delicious dishes like turkey, stuffing, and pumpkin pie, and to spend time with loved ones. Of course, it's also a time to give thanks for the blessings in our lives. But as the years have gone on, Thanksgiving has become more and more commercialized. Stores put out their holiday decorations, and sales begin the day after Halloween. Final thoughts. As we come to the end of this video, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. First, I hope that you've learned something new and that you'll take this knowledge with you as you celebrate Thanksgiving. Second, I want to remind you that it is okay to question traditions and to be critical of historical narratives. Finally, I want to say that learning about history makes traditions more meaningful. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope you enjoy the holiday season, and I hope you take some time to reflect on the importance of cultural awareness and respect. Thanks for watching. Bye.